Well, we need to have a man-on-the-moon effort to invest in alternative energy sources. This is a national security issue. We're spent $500 billion shoring up our oil interests in this war in the Middle East, and we have got to take our resources and invest them in cellulosic ethanol that will help us grow potatoes in our rural areas, and in hydrogen cars, and in wind, and in solar. We have the technology out there to do it, and we need to invest in it to shore up our national security issues and clean up our environment, bring reasonably cost energy to the consumers of America. Brazil has been able to do it with sugar. There is a lot of technology. We are the greatest country on the earth, and we need to do a great effort in getting these better technologies so that we can have a safer America.
Thank you. I think that when President Bush was talking about being addicted to oil, he was talking about largely the problem that creates in our defense by relying on dictators like Chavez in Venezuela, who are spending the millions of dollars a day we give them to undermine our interests, and that's a problem. Clearly we're doing a great deal. We passed an energy bill recently, and we're focusing on hydrogen and geothermal. Cellulosic ethanol is something that would be a great deal, but we have some problems we have to solve before we can actually use that. In the meantime, there's nothing wrong with nuclear. We need to expand our nuclear energy. We need to be able to have hybrid cars so that we can use nuclear to charge our cars in the evening. We also need to develop traditional resources. We have a lot of oil and gas and coal bed methane that we can do in Utah. We need to do some new things like oil shale and coal to liquid, both of which are now economically feasible, and either of which would make us independent of foreign energy. And we've passed bills that would provide the incentives, providing the incentives for both those areas, those more traditional areas. And when those take hold over the next few months and years, then we will begin to see that America can provide not only for our own energy needs, but also for the growing energy needs of the world.
Yeah, I like what's been said. I agree with a lot of it. This is a national security issue. Nuclear power is the energy. We've been able to harness the energy of the universe. We do need to explore that more and create. I know the waste is a big problem, but I know that they're making advances on that front. We do need to look into creating more nuclear energy. And with it being a national security issue, I have no problem with the state and federal governments being able to use tax dollars to try to fund better methods. I know that we're already subsidizing the energy or the oil industry, and I think that wind farms, hydroelectric, we're using. We need to tap all kinds of different sources. If the government just switched over to biodiesel, that would be a major step towards creating more biodiesel. So there's a lot of different things we can do on that front.
Yes. Currently, right now, we're spending $8 billion a month in Iraq, and the number one reason that we are over there is to stabilize that section of the world because of the oil. There's no doubt about that in anybody's mind.
Oil, blood for oil.
That's right. And then, as I understand it, we have enough oil reserves, enough reserves in our own nation now to last us for 500 years, even at the rate that we are going. We need to become totally independent, whatever it takes for us to do to become totally independent and quit dealing with nations that are hostile to the principles that this nation was founded upon. It makes no sense to continue to buy from our enemies, allowing them to spend billions and billions of dollars to fight us back. We can become totally self-sufficient, and we can do that if we have the guts to bite the bullet and to do it right.
Well, is this a softball? The differences are enormous. If Nancy Pelosi is elected because the majority of the House becomes Democratic, then you will see a huge transition away from the family values that have predominated, that is less abortion, less welfare dependence, and all the other problems that we've done a pretty good job recently on pornography, although that got way out of hand under the Democratic administration of Mr. Clinton. So family values will be radically different. The focus on freedom and eliminating government control and regulation will be radically different. And I think for me this is vastly important. I want the American people to have freedom and have an environment in which they can innovate and make the world a better place in America and in Bangladesh and elsewhere. This is the difference between Democrats and Republicans is vast, is profound. Republicans want to continue improving America. Democrats want to change things dramatically.
Sailors throughout the world, we have a huge deficit. We need some opposition up there. Perhaps we wouldn't be committing torture throughout the world and throwing out the Geneva Conventions if there is some opposition. The government needs to be in opposition. This president has not vetoed one bill. He's the one president in history that hasn't vetoed a bill that's come through, and that's why we're in a big mess that we are. There's no problem. If Nancy Pelosi becomes in charge, at least we'll get a balanced budget out of it.
Yes, there's nothing worse than trying to solve a problem one doesn't understand the nature of the problem. Both major parties now openly promote socialism. Socialism is not just a philosophical way of describing government. It is evil. It's wicked. It destroys individuals, it destroys communities, and it destroys nations, and it will destroy this nation. One of the lawful remedies offered to us by the Founding Fathers was just to say no. And yet both major parties refuse to do that. That's what the separation of powers doctrine is all about. And so there is a major party, and the Constitution Party, which is now the third largest party in the nation, is 100% committed to restoring the principles of the Founding Fathers. And so what you are seeing today in America is the result of 70 years of the New Deal, the New Frontier, and the Great Society, orchestrated by both major parties.
It's not a foregone conclusion who the Democrats will select as the Speaker of the House. There are many Democrats that are going to be running, and if I am elected, I'm going to be the one who gets to choose that, because it is quite likely that the Democrats are going to take back the House. But with regard to the differences between the Democrats and the Republicans in all parties, make no mistake about it, this Republican Party has waged a war on the middle class. They've shifted the tax burden to the middle class. They're trying to get rid of Social Security, and they're attacking Medicare with this ridiculous Part D thing that they did. And they also have made a travesty of our public school system with the No Child Left Behind Act that the incumbent voted for. There are a lot of differences. We need separation of powers. We need people to come into Congress and have oversight and bring this democracy back to the people and uphold the Constitution.